Hi, welcome to Bookish Brits. I'm Rex, and today I'm going to be talking about books that are my friends, which might sound a little strange, but when you're an oddball kid and you grow up reading a lot of books, sometimes the characters in the books start to feel like they are your friend. And no book really does this. I've got about 6 I'm going to get through, so no book really does this for me quite as much as I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. Dodie Smith, you probably know, is famous for having written 101 Dalmatians, but for me, this is her most beautiful and best work. So the book is set in 3 parts, and you're following a girl called Cassandra, and she really wants to be a writer. And what you're reading is her journal, essentially, on her path to kind of discovering her writing talent and what she wants to do, and you're reading about her life. But the way she tells you the story, you feel like you are actually reading a young girl's journal and you're genuinely following her life and part of it. And every time I go back, I feel like I'm visiting an old friend. Again, it's one of the few books that I will reread, and mostly from comfort of like catching up with someone you used to know. And that's exactly what every page of this book feels like. And there's a quote, I think Joanna Trollope said, that no book inspires as much loyalty amongst its fans than this one, and they are right, because I will recommend it to anyone. I absolutely love it. I will never want to be without a copy of it on my shelves, so definitely I Capture the Castle. It's just gentle and sweet, and there's nothing epic about it. It's just a very genuine story about a young girl growing up in the British countryside, and Dodie Smith wrote it as a love letter to missing the UK when she moved back to the States, and you can feel her love come through in the book, which sounds really corny, but it's true. So if you haven't read it before and you want to make friends with a book, this is definitely the best place to start. So the second book, which will probably not come as a surprise to anyone that knows me and knows about my love of Roald Dahl, despite his controversial personality, is Matilda. So Matilda is definitely one of those books where I projected myself into it, because Matilda loves to read and lives in the library, and I have kept asking myself, where the fuck are my special powers? Where are they? I've been waiting. I cannot move things with my mind. So, little disappointed on that part, but every time I read Matilda, it is joyful, it is fun, it is quirky, and I love reading about her. And again, it's probably the Roald Dahl that I've read the most and read over and over again, and always enjoy. And just like I Capture the Castle, it feels like you're going back. There's a massive nostalgia value whenever I read this book. So this book is definitely one of my friends. The next one is, and I mentioned this in another review, so I had to talk about it, is Howls Moving Castle, because Sophie is such a brilliant character. She is so funny. She's so messed up. Like, she has this whole stick about, because she's the eldest, she's boring and nothing interesting is going to happen to her. But if you read Howls Moving Castle and then Castle in the Air and The House of Many Ways, many interesting things happen to her, and it's sort of letting her overcome her own perceptions of herself, and that's what the stories are about, as well as magical adventures. But it's Sophie's character that just makes all of the books, even the later ones that I don't think are as enjoyable but are still good. Sophie is what makes them great, and maybe that's where Castle in the Air is let down, because there's very little Sophie in it. But every time I read this, and every time I watch the Studio Ghibli film, it's entirely different. It's very, very, very different to the book, but I love them both so much. But they do keep a lot of her sense of humour, and that's what I love about that. When she's grandma, she's still got a kind of almost slightly cruel sense of humour, and I'm totally down with that. So Sophie and Howls Moving Castle are another friend of mine. And the next one, so this is one that I read probably in my early teens, so So this is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. And growing up, Marianne was definitely my mate. I was like, you get me, Marianne. You understand me. We get each other. But the older I get, this sounds really sad. Eleanor makes more and more sense to me as I got older, and not just because she's a bit more sensible, but I think I understand her perspective more as I've aged, which says something about Austen's writing, that she can really, you know, that was the point, that Marianne and Eleanor saw the world in very different ways, and as I've grown up, I see the world in very different ways. But I love reading this. Or often I will just, if I'm feeling down, I'll read just a chapter because the language itself is so nice, and I know the story so well I can literally pick up and read any random chapter from it and still enjoy it and still feel like it's like a comfort blanket, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this review. Is I'm speaking to Michelle and Andrew, who both blog on this channel, and we were talking about rereading books, and I do it very rarely, only when I want to be comforted or I'm feeling down, and these are the books that I read, and that's what inspired this post. So you can thank Sense and Sensibility and Andrew and Michelle for my rambling on. So I'd be shocked if people haven't read Sense and Sensibility, but it's my favourite Austen. Sometimes Persuasion gets in there, but I think Sense and Sense just tips it over the edge. The next book that I am friends with is The House of Mirth. Now, my favourite Edith Wharton is still The Age of Innocence. Don't get me wrong. Ethan Frome just makes me cry far too much. But The House of Mirth, the main protagonist is a lady named Lily Bart, and Lily is that friend of yours who, it doesn't matter what she tries and how well intentioned she is, things just fuck up for her. And that is poor Lily's story. So it's set in the early 1900s, and we follow Lily, who through many misfortunes ends up literally destitute. But you know, at the start, where you think Lily is at the start of the book, you think she's a bit vapid and she's a bit spoiled, but Lily has the warmest heart, and she's got real integrity, and that comes across as you read or reread. And then in my head, I call this the tragedy of Lily Bart, which will tell you what's really going on in the book when and if you decide to read it, or if you've read it already, you know where I'm coming from. But if you don't want to read it, I actually do like the Gillian Anderson version that came out. I didn't the first time I watched it, probably because I was so attached to the book, but I now actually really love that version. So you could always watch it. But oh, Lily, just, and every time I think I'm like, I've got a tragic personality, because I know what's going to happen, and I go back and I kind of hope each time that she'll have a better ending, but it just doesn't happen. And it's stupid, because, you know, a book can't change its ending, but in my head it can. So go and visit Lily sometime, she's fantastic. And then lastly but not least, my adventure friend, this is the Eyre Affair by Jasper Fforde, and it is set in a world where everyone is obsessed with literature, and the main character, Thursday Next, my friend, is an agent, and she has a special ability to do with fiction, which I don't want to give away if you've never read the series, but she's sort of this tomboyish, hard-nosed detective type character. But the whole Jasper Fforde isn't such a quirky writer. He really makes me laugh, and there's loads of in-jokes, literary in-jokes, that just will have you giggling quite a lot. But Thursday herself is really well-rounded, and that's what I like about Thursday. And through all of the books that she's in, the series that follows her, she just continues to evolve, and just like a normal person, and is very well-rounded and is fun. She is your fun mate that you go on adventures with, and is rather sarcastic at times, and that's what you kind of enjoy about her. And the Eyre Affair and all of the books in the series make me laugh and cheer me up, and well, this is the one I tend to go back and reread bits of. They're all great, so there's plenty to mine there. So yeah, Thursday Next. So these are my friends. Thursday Next, Lily Bart, Marianne and Eleanor, Sophie, the wonderful Matilda. Oh, of course, and a shout out to Mrs. Honey and the amazing Cassandra, and even her sister Rose, who annoyed me the first time I read it, but I've come to have an affection for. So, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more videos about books. And if you're worried about missing out, just click on the bell and you'll be notified every time we post a new video. Thanks! Bye!